Trident Wargaming. Build it, paint it, play it.
Hello, Heresy friends. Welcome back to Trident Wargaming. Today's episode, we're actually going all the way into the void. We're going to be talking about that sweet Battlefleet Heresy. I'm joined with two guests of the channel. We've got our Shipmaster Chris.
Hello, hello.
And we have Shipmaster James.
Hey.
And Chris and James, they're trying to pull us all into Battlefleet Heresy, and from the sounds of it, they're doing a good job. They're starting to assimilate quite the player base.
Slowly but surely.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with a game as revered as Battlefleet Gothic. So I guess
it's really about that nostalgia.
It really is, right? It really is. I guess to kick off the episode, as we do on all episodes, do a little bit of hobby stuff. Some progress that we've been working on. I guess I can go first. In terms of hobby progress, I have been actually working on my Legio Ignatum, getting that all ready for the Adeptus Titanicus slow grow. I have been admittedly also looking at some Battlefleet Heresy ships. Just peeking, right? I want to see what they look like. So
that's how it starts.
I know.
Danger. That's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. So that's been my my main push. How about yourself, James? What have you been working on?
Actually, I've been doing the same. I played my first couple games of Adeptus Titanicus over the past week here. Was run through a couple just smaller games, and it was great. And so I'm in. So I've been actually doing the same. I'm actually also going with Ignatum. So I've been building a warlord the past couple days.
Oh, nice.
But it for me, yeah.
And yourself, Chris? What have you been working on?
Would you believe me if I said nothing? Of course you wouldn't. I mean, to be perfectly honest, the same thing you have, and then I've been kind of obsessing a little bit over the new, it's not quite epic 30K. So, what is it? Legio is Imperialis, as they're calling it officially. So, a little bit of the kind of like back end stuff on how I'm going to convert up my old epic forces into this brand new one.
Yeah, because you've got quite a bit of the like epic 30K stuff, if I recall.
I do have at least 2 full armies of 30K, and then I get to add a little bit of Adeptus Titanicus to it as well, because of course I've been clawed in by that insidious game, and I'm doing some Traitor Astorum, so that's fun.
Yeah, it is. It is a fun game, and honestly, just from being able to come over to the table, watching you guys play Battlefleet Heresy in between, 40K games or Heresy games, whatever the flavor is that we're playing that night, it sounds like Battlefleet Heresy is a blast. Sounds really good. I guess for anyone who doesn't know, these are kind of like, I want to say, I guess, like a homebrew / fan-made adaptation of Battlefleet Gothic. I know Remembrancers Retreat did a lot of work on, they have, I think it's a big, massive PDF, books 1 to 5, they have like updated versions. The most recent, actually I was peeking at it online today, the most recent is their book 1 to 5.0.4. That's the one I've got anyways. And then Chris, you were mentioning another group that had done some work with Battlefleet as well.
Absolutely. I mean, the Remembrancers Retreat, when they did their Battlefleet Heresy Void Warfare in the Age of Darkness, which was by Austin Hunt, Stephen Campbell, so you can get it on their site. It's really quite good as the adaptation, kind of the old school expansion pack to Battlefleet Gothic. But we've been using a little bit more of a homemade fan brew, which is called the BFG 2020, which is by Andrew Hollis, Crafty Juarez Monaghan, Tom Harding, and Sam Colt. Okay. Now, what they've done there is just adapted it a little bit, and it's come a little bit closer to some of the more modern games like Adeptus Titanicus and even, say, Star Wars Armada. So,
awesome.
There's been some little alterations made.
Yes, little updates.
Sure, we can go into that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely down to hear about that stuff. I guess what is the big difference for anyone who has played BFG, like the original stuff back in the glorious 90s, to now? What are some of the big updates and differences in the Heresy version?
Oh, for me, I played a little bit of the older version of the game in the sort of mid 2000s, and I found that, well, the main differences are the ships available. For the Space Marines, you have literally, the battle barges, strike cruisers, and their escorts. For the Imperial Navy, you would have their ships, the Chaos, their style ships, and they're all separate. Whereas in this Heresy version that we play, all the ships are available to all the factions.
Oh, nice.
So that's a really big difference. Gives you a lot more variety and a lot more interesting combinations that you can come up with. That's the big difference for me. Yeah. What do you think, Chris?
See, I agree. And of course, like when it comes to that one, there's the ship list, but the way that it plays, the probably single biggest factor is that now you have alternating activations, which is a pretty big departure from the standard I go, you go of most of the older kind of styles of wargaming. Yep. And by that, I mean Games Workshop's core line. We're not getting into War Master or the old Epic 30K, which worked on the same alternating activation system. But at that point in time, Battlefleet Gothic was still fairly conventional. So that's added quite a bit of the back and forth. And it really does change the flavor. It makes things a little bit more responsive. You have to worry about certain other kind of metagaming aspects to it, which is, I mean, there's positives and negatives. But there is one other thing. And funny enough, we talk about it like it's a modern incarnation, but it's the advanced ordnance rules, which makes the fighter game, torpedoes and stuff like that, a bunch more complex. And it follows after things that seem, again, more recent, like Star Wars Armada compared to the 2006 to 2010 era. But that said, the rules have been around in Warp Rift since like 2012, so it's not really that new. It's just, again, it's not mainstream conventional wisdom.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The alternating activations, just keeps it from being so potentially one-sided, right? Instead of one person's whole fleet activating and blasting with everything, going back and forth, allows for a little more swing in the momentum.
Yeah, that I think that's one of the biggest things I appreciate about Titanicus is you get that back and forth. It doesn't feel oppressive on one side or the other. I'm assuming, because I haven't touched Gothic for many, many years, I'm assuming you're rolling off like an initiative kind of thing at the beginning of the turn?
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
Very cool, very cool. I guess, is there anything other than like the way it plays for you, or just the general feel of the game? Is there anything that I guess immediately drew you? Like, I know looking at these rules myself, there's access to these Gloriana class vessels. That's what's drawing me, like being able to command, one of these Gloriana class ships. And to be honest, it's gonna sound really fucked up. I really want to do a White Scars army.
Okay.
I really want to buckle into the speed and let it rip. Like, I know I was talking about doing the phalanx and having the fists, but it's like, I don't know, something just calls to me about switching it up,
It's fun. It's fun. You have the potential to do it. And again, thanks to our Remembrancers Retreat rules, they actually play a little bit different, which is a really nice change from the original versions of this, where everything is more or less just Imperial or Chaos. Yeah. So if you want to play with something that's White Scars, hey, guess what? They're slightly faster, which is, a shock, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of briefly reading. Slightly faster, and they pass all ahead full checks.
Which is nice, which is
Yeah.
legitimately nice because, again, getting into a bit of the mechanics, much like Adeptus Titanicus, if you fail that roll and you just need to go fast the one time and you fail it, like the rest of the turn's screwed.
Yeah, no doubt.
So
No doubt.
don't fail those orders. Simple as that.
And each...
Now,
sorry, go ahead.
when it comes to what really drew me, the Glorianas, of course, are that it's eye candy. It looks amazing. It's one of those things you look at it across the table and it's like, oh, hey, it's basically a Titan in space because they're not small. But the real draw after one or two games to me was they have a pretty fleshed out narrative bit, even in their matched play rules, which is like, oh, hey, this is a bit of a change. This is going to be something new and unique and interesting, and it keeps it fresh.
That's always good. Especially if you can, like, I'm assuming in terms of narrative play, do they have kind of like a pre-built, almost like campaign system? I know Andrew HOLLIS was really big into just going to the max. Like, that guy, he's a wizard when it comes to any of that, having a structured system you can play through.
There is a
Yeah,
whole
absolutely
campaign
is.
in the book. Yeah, in the
Nice.
rule book. Yeah,
I think it's about a third of the book at least,
Yeah,
and
it
I
is
might be
massive,
charitable
yeah.
there. It's
They went
huge.
real detail put into it. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I know from previously the like Australian 30K stuff that I've seen, and anything from the like the Aussie crew down there. Like I have Horus podcast and the again Andrew Halls with the Australian 30K guys. What is his name? The Morneval group. They put out some amazing 30K rules for like community use, and I'm sure Battlefleet Gothic is no exception. So,
Oh yeah.
It's all tasty stuff. I mean, their involvement is really what's kept me in 30K as long as I've been in, which is a fair time. We'll go with that.
yeah.
And for me, what got me into Battlefleet Gothic? I was playing I was playing Victory at Sea a little bit before, so World War II naval combat. And I think it was you, Chris, that actually initially sucked me in.
I am a danger. That
And I
is
spoke to you about
probably
it.
fair.
And yeah, you fed the fire there, and that was the beginning of the end.
You could just imagine you're playing a game of Victory at Sea. Chris comes up behind you. Hey, you know what? If you say fuck this shit and you go in space,
Well, that's
what's
it.
better than
I was
going to
I was
space?
already doing fleet combat, but let's throw some Space Marine Legions into it too, and
Yeah.
have some fun there. So
No doubt.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like it is a fun little change of pace, just visually. I mean, both games do play pretty well, so I can't complain.
That's awesome. How many people do you have chomping at the bit for some Heresy, Battlefleet Heresy games now? It's got to be released around the 6 or 7
I
mark.
think it's 6. Well, now that
I think
with you, because I'm calling you in now too, I think it'll be 7.
Oh my goodness.
I think we're actually at 8, but I could be wrong on that one. It's the number tends to grow, and the interest definitely has grown.
Yeah. I know if Andy's listening to this, driving to work or just painting models, he's probably just put everything down. He's looking at the screen going, well, like, I am in, obviously. So
Andy, call me. Demo game anytime, huh?
I'm super pleased with how fast it seems to have taken off in the local group. It's like I've only been playing it. I think, I don't know, maybe a few months, maybe something like that, 3 or 4 months.
It's about right.
And it's already seems to have got legs, so it's really great to see.
No, it's always good. I think there's a definite certain level of accessibility with it when it comes to models, and obviously having resources online that you can just download for free.
Huge.
That's always been a big factor for some people. Going back to the models though, like there is a ton of different files out there that I've seen, and I know I've been oogling at your phone, Chris, when you're showing me pictures, these files, and I'm just like, oh god, look at these things. Like some of the ships are just phenomenal.
Absolutely. When it comes to that hobby side of things, there's just so much out there from so many amazing sources that, I mean, it's hard not to get sucked in when you see it, you have the visual identity of nostalgia mixed with what's been in like the black books. So it's right there in front of you. And now, like, you don't have to go try to find a copy of an out of print rule set from 2008.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3D printing has completely changed the game in terms of accessibility for these games that are really out of print now, really. These older games.
Yeah. I remember trying to track down. I did actually have a sizable Space Marine force, the old pewter stuff, battle barges, strike cruisers,
Nice.
tons of stuff, and it just seemed like it wasn't taken off, so I ended up selling all my stuff off in like a big lot, and now I kind of regret getting rid of all the markers and all the tokens and shit, because obviously those game aids are very useful.
But even those, like, Chris has the original markers, like OG.
Yes, I do.
I've had to print some off, and really they're just as good, right? But yes, like it's still changing the game there too. Like you can do everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
I mean, exactly. It's again, it's the accessibilities. It's how easy people have made this to be able to pick up. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's been a lot of companies, including Games Workshop recently, that have made the games more accessible through most of their starter packs. But when it comes to an out-of-print game, that's like it lives and dies by how easy you're able to actually obtain this.
Very true. Very true. Very true. I know I was surprised how fast I was able to find the stuff. And for all those listening, if you are curious, we're going to have links in the description. So you can always go on there, click on it, and take a peek at what they've got for rules. And who knows, maybe you too can start a underground cult of Battlefleet Heresy of your own. So that'll be very nice. I guess in terms of the actual, I guess, average gameplay, run us through what you're using for points. And are you guys actively using Gloriana class right now, or are you kind of treating it like a Primarch, like only when both people are bringing it, or is it kind of an all-comers, bust out whatever fleet you want?
Usually, I think the average game for a sort of a evening battle is probably around 1,500 points, somewhere around there.
Okay.
It gives you enough that there's some fun toys to play with, but you can still finish it that evening. I've played one game with the Gloriana class battleships, and they are fun, but they are not all made equal. So I think if you're gonna bring those, I think it's best to sort of speak with your opponent first and make sure, you know what I mean, just to, there's no feel bad moments, but other than that, yeah, no, do it.
I mean, just building
fun to see on the tabletop.
Exactly. Just building on that, literally, I think it's in the second or third page of the whole Battlefleet Heresy rule book. There's a quote that perfectly works with it, which is, apply judicious use of common sense and narrative judgment. So, like, really go towards that narrative flair, because Glorianas are great, but speaking as the particular fleet that has to spend some of the most on it, they are not made equally.
Yeah, I did notice in terms of points, it has quite the range, going from like 500 down to 325, which is kind of odd. It almost it reminded me.
Yeah, like some are. I think the cheapest is 350.
Yeah,
and the most is almost 700. Like, double that. It's crazy.
So it's truly just like the Primarchs in old first edition.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair comparison.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'm definitely eager to get an intro game in, just to run through, see if I can break the rust off, if I can remember how to play. Like, it's just been so long, but I think that's the nice thing with this particular game, and I know we've been talking about it a little bit back and forth on some chats, and I've made some posts just on the local Heresy page. Being able to incorporate this particular system along with Adeptus Titanicus, the Legions Imperialis that's coming out, Zone Mortalis, and even just your regular frontline games, not to mention any of the other modes if you wanted to play the old style like a big tank war, the old Centurion mode. Being able to incorporate this into like a giant overall narrative campaign is really what's selling it for me. I just think the potential is so high to make this like such a fun thing, and I've said it in previous episodes too. Like, it's not something that we need like 30 or 40 people to jump into, but if you had the right, 10 to 12 people, like that would be huge. Like, you could even do
absolutely.
it if you had like a squad of like 8 dedicated fucking guys that are ready to jump in. Like, you could make magic happen, honestly.
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like you said, it's the linked content when it comes to that. And I mean, I'm pretty certain I remember the early Fanatic magazine, which was like the specialist games magazine that Games Workshop published. They had a conversion system that had how to do your Battlefleet Gothic games to your landing forces, which would, of course, inform how many points of epic you could take. And then within epic, that would go towards your frontline battle gaming and then your, whatever they were calling kill team at the time. So it was all of those little things that just added together, and you're like, oh, this rolls into that, and this will affect this. And it's such a brilliant possibility that I would be hard pressed to disbelieve that they're not considering that in the background now that Legions Imperialis is being released.
After I played my first game with Chris, I was talking to him and I was like, man, like Bill's gonna be doing this campaign soon. Like, how crazy would it be if we could somehow drum up enough support that it could somehow be incorporated? Like, it's probably too late, but that's okay. And then when you sort of announced that it was, I was like, oh, mission accomplished. Like, it's going to be amazing. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, just when Legion Imperialis got dropped, and then hearing you guys starting to ramp up with Battlefleet Heresy, I was kind of thinking about it. I was like, I don't need to rush to bring this out, and the more systems we can incorporate obviously just makes the drop-in games day, the campaign meetup days, that much bigger and better, especially if we can rope that into events in the future. Like, if you can have a whole event dedicated to 4 or 5 different theaters of war, think how many boxes you're ticking off for everybody. There's so much choice.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna max out all the fields. You can have 2 or 3 tables of this, that, and everything else. You're going to offer such a unique experience and a well-rounded experience for everybody. Even if you're not coming to the event to play Heresy, Battlefleet Heresy, you're probably going to either be really interested in the results of that game, and let's be real, you're going to watch the game for a little bit, because you might want to know what's going on in that space station. If the enemy takes control, they might be firing at your fleet or whatever.
That's the interesting thing that Battlefleet Gothic adds to a campaign system, is that with Titanicus and Imperialis and Heresy, those are all land battles, but having access to base battles now, you can sort of link the story a little bit more rather than having to just do it narratively. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. Absolutely.
See, the thing that I'm particularly thrilled with is, while James absolutely nailed it, you have a 1,500 point fleet battle going on, which is kind of the status quo and the expectation of most people going in. The matched missions, I mean, there's 9 of them, 10 of them. So they're surprisingly varied. So you have things that are like the usual big fleet battles between these big line cruisers and squadrons of escorts and waves of attack fighters. But then you've got in the exact same scale, convoy battles, or trying to take out planetary defense systems, and you're running smaller battles. So while 1,500 points might be that kind of gold standard, you're finding that, hey, you can reasonably play 500, 750 points, and the games still feel like they're worth playing. They're not that kind of, oh, this is just an introduction to the game. You have a complete experience with that too. It just switches what your objectives are, and it kind of shifts the balance. Because, again, not all fleets are made equal, not all of your legions are going to be equal, but suddenly, when you add a few more little variables into the mix, everyone's playing a slightly different game, and it's pretty fun.
That's awesome. I do like the idea of utilizing as much of the narrative aspect to really spread that, or I guess even out the skill set between legions or the built-in rules. I think that's trying to get as close to an even playing field as you can. makes it that much more enjoyable, obviously.
Absolutely.
So no, that's pretty legit. I wanted to touch base with you guys and just kind of figure out where you were at. Like, I know we started just rattling off, ways that we can use like a multi-theater system. What would be your top goal with Battlefleet Heresy? Would you want to see like a massive space battle, like Defense of the Soul system? Are we trying to do like, what would be your must-have fleet? Yeah, must-have fleet, like the equivalent to your Siege of Terra, like Void Warfare fight. Because there's a couple big notable ones in the Heresy. Like, which ones really would you want to focus on?
Which specific theater?
Yeah.
That's an interesting question for me. I mean, I'm a sucker for Istvan. I will always be a sucker for Istvan. So getting the Eisenstein through that blockade and bringing the war to the greater Imperium, that's cool. That's a cool scenario. Because we kind of don't know what happens between that Istvan 3, Istvan 5, right? Like, at Istvan 5, you have the big slaughter. I mean, both on the ground and in space. So I'd like to be able to get those two kind of grouped up, and then you can go from there to places like, say, Fall or even Callian Gate after a while. Something like that.
For me, I'm going to go the opposite direction, actually. I'm going to say the Siege of Terra. I can envision a scenario where on a big table, say the Traitor fleet has to break through the Loyalist defenses and get their ships to actually land troops onto Terra to actually, begin the assault on the Imperial Palace. That would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like the breach blockade.
Like, more ships they can get to assault the planet, the more troops they get on the ground battle, stuff like that, I think could be really cool.
And there were so many of those, like, you got those planetary defense systems, you got the big strings of these heavy guns and installations, which, I mean, if there's one drawback that we always kind of think of when it comes to whether it's Victory at Sea, whether it's Battlefleet Gothic, it's that the terrain doesn't usually play as big a part visually as in certain other games. But if you start focusing things around there, suddenly it becomes a lot more, fun to hobby around in.
That's awesome. Definitely, yeah, you want to max it out as much, I guess, NPC stuff, if that's, I guess, the right term for it, to have it like in a game, I think would just definitely take it to that next level.
Give it some more flavor, an extra bit of spice.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Sugar and spice, everything nice. And I mean, it does it. There's so much crunch in this system when it comes to all those extraneous bits. You can do it, no problem.
I think one of the biggest things I'm looking forward to with Epic and Battlefleet being able to, try and jump between these systems is, I think locally it'll be an opportunity where we could actually have these Istvan 5 for like reenactment fights. Just because we're so spread out with legions. There are some legions like we just don't have enough players of or big enough forces to jump in.
Right.
And with the rise of Epic, having multiple forces, being able to have that massive Siege of Terra battle suddenly becomes much more obtainable, especially with the world of 3D printers that we're in. It's not hard to, build an actual palace wall and have all your Titans supporting your, either legit or 3D printed armies. I really think the future will hold some pretty legit battles, and the opportunity for just campaigns and growth and like reenacting these stories that we all know from the Heresy and obviously love is just going to be right there. Like, it'll just be max.
Huge.
Yeah, max power.
Totally agree.
To see a big, like, sort of like 3v3 or more mega battle is, you know what I mean? That's the dream right there.
Yeah.
For me.
Absolutely.
It's the incorporation, all of this stuff, whether it's boarding teams like affecting the Battlefleet Gothic results, which is pretty easy to do given the damage system and all that is, again, a little bit more nuanced. It's what you'd expect. Having all of these things interconnected and having multiple players have that, I guess, the familiarity, but also the investment in what other people are doing too. I mean, it's a cool thing to know that you don't feel insignificant.
Yeah, it just paints a much more vivid picture, you know what I mean, of what's going on, and sort of, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It's a completed narrative picture, which is, I mean, it's what we all struggle towards trying to do, but given that we've only really had the frontline gaming, sometimes it's hard to reflect that scale that you expect with the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I think the nice thing too, being able to add a little bit of that granularity to our games, it really does make it feel, and to echo your point, Chris, it makes it feel like the smaller games actually have some weight to them. Like they are actually worth playing. Where I know sometimes like a lot of the focus is in that, that top podium spot. Guys really trying to, vie really hard. But like this is where, maybe there is going to be a lot of focus on boarding actions and fighting off in space stations or Mortalis style and bombarding a planet of epic that's going on. That's the stuff I really want to focus on, is just, creating our own stories of Horus Heresy. And I'm really excited to take all that and try to roll it into something really cool for like a campaign next year. Like I have a lot of different missions and scryings of shit all over the place. And if we can add multiple theaters with multiple like mission to just let everybody have a chance to
matrices. I think
matrices.
Anyway.
Yes, thank you.
Matrices.
That was bugging me. But that gives everybody a chance to really go for broke in that chosen system. I don't know what else you could ask for in a
I can't wait to see what you come
community or whatever, right? Like, and there's going to be lots. I really want to touch base with a lot of the like the passion players. This will definitely be like a group project. It'll be a baby that we can put forward to the community and hopefully make it something that where everybody gets a little piece of it, and there's going to be something for everybody moving forward at events, because I'd really like to emulate that particular setup moving forward. I never like the idea of closing off players, especially if there's interest in systems. So if it means, we have to buy a couple space mats and get those zone tables done up and get some epic terrain printed up and some more that matches with the Titanicus stuff. Like that's kind of where I really want to invest my energy and time, is just providing something that we can create for the community itself. So
just a greater story.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's the compatibility with all these things. There's such potential in it that, like, squandering it by not really going the whole 9 yards for this, it feels like a lost opportunity if we don't. Which is, I mean, it's one of the reasons why I play pretty much every 30k styled system. So when you put up the campaign notice, I was just like, do I have to just choose one? Because this will absolutely kill me if I just have to choose the one.
No, that's the thing too, is I know there's lots of people who want to play multiple different theaters. And I think letting people choose for every engagement, if they want, hey, you know what, this round I'm going zone style. This round I'm going Titanicus. I'm going Battlefleet. I think if we leave it open, that is just, again, it just lets the floodgates fly open. People can battle and play. And you know what? We might even be able to set up some provisions where, hey, I'm going to do, Titanicus, and someone's not actually playing Titanicus. We might be able to write something in where it's like, hey, there was no opposition. You were able to conquer this spot and really fuck everything else up along the battle, right? Like make it worthwhile.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Make it worth it. Exactly.
Yeah. So you always want to have someone looking out. It's like
covered all the bases. Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like we better have someone on Heresy fleet. We better have someone in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
And you can now start to coordinate like team wise, right? Like, hey, who wants to fight where? Where are we sending our troops?
Exactly. Positional warfare for that kind of stuff. Like, you might not have opposition. You might be playing small games that seem, again, insignificant, but it's what can this do for the whole overall effect? Because, like, in every single one of these battles, regardless of scale, there's a story. So you're able to roll that into one, and suddenly it's not my story or James' story or Bill, your story. It's our story. Yeah. And I think that that's the real potential that we have with all these interoperative systems.
Absolutely.
That's a good point. Where everyone's contributed the little, highlights here and there over the course of the battle or the war.
I honestly feel like this could be the creation of our first local black book, kind of how Andy many moons ago did that. It was a black book style league, and he was making that, but we could actually do our own campaign of whatever the case may be and take pictures of the games of our own models and have write-ups and deployments and almost record our history of what we've got going on locally and how it actually
would be amazing.
Translated. It could be so cool, and everyone can have a PDF this was I was part of this. This is the everyone can be listed in the disposition of forces.
Cool would that be?
Yeah, I think that'd just be so neat to be able to
Absolutely.
really personalize it for people.
I mean, isn't that really one of the biggest draws, is the idea that, hey, we have some kind of impact, and then this is something that we all get to do. Yeah. It's making memories.
Have it put into almost like a fictional history book would be so
exactly.
Cool.
Exactly. The shit you're doing in this campaign could be echoed down the road, right? Years later. It could be something people look back on and just super fondly. And again, like I said, the potential so big. I really want to explore it to the max. Whatever we can do to max it out, I'm definitely there. So
yeah, while waiting sucks, yeah, I will do it gladly, knowing what is potentially to come.
It'll be good. And you know what? It brings us closer to that realization of they very well may be, and I know it's just a matter of time. I have faith. It brings us closer to having another adaptation of Battlefleet to come out.
Yep, absolutely. And it would be almost foolish to think that they're not going to stick it in the Heresy, just because that seems to be kind of that fertile breeding ground for some pretty good ideas and a lot of their specialist systems. So that's cool.
Absolutely. I know later after this segment, we're going to actually be jumping in and talking about some of the Adeptus Titanicus slow grow stuff we've been doing, where the slow grow system itself, or the development of slow grow, where it's actually headed. And then we'll touch base a little bit at the end of the segment of kind of the big plans for the October event, which is, again, multi-theater. Just going to be hopefully something for everybody. But before we end up jumping over there, James, Chris, I do appreciate you guys jumping on and giving me some time. Is there anything you'd like to mention to our listeners about Battlefleet Heresy, or just anything in particular?
I'd say give it a try if you have the opportunity. It's a great game. Yeah, it's fun. Thanks for having me. That's about it.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, I'll echo the exact same thing. Give it a try. It's a lot of fun. If nothing else, it's a little kind of dose of nostalgia in your life.
Yeah. You've heard it. Give it a try from the Pusher Men. They're definitely slowly assimilating us, like I mentioned before in the earlier part of the episode. So,
one at a time.
Yeah, that's right.
One by one.
Come check it out. That's excellent. I definitely appreciate you guys jumping on. And listeners will be jumping into the Titanicus segment right about now. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is the other half of the segment. We've got some sweet Titanicus talk for you. We're going to be leaving the Void Warfare and dropping down into some sweet Titan Warfare. I am joined with one of the longtime guests of the channel. We've got Princeps Dan.
Hello.
And then we've got a new friend of the channel, Morardi Dustin. Welcome.
Hello.
So we're going to be talking about our favorite game, and it's definitely starting to take off, I guess, slow grow wise. We're going for some Titanicus action, but before we get started, we'll do a little quick roundtable hobby action. Dan, what have you been working on last week? What's been going on hobby-wise?
Well, I built a dire wolf to try and add it to something, but I don't know. I got my first ever gaming computer, and it kind of turned into a succubus, and it sucked my soul out of my life. But
awesome, I love it.
But I've been trying to do Titanicus. I'll probably get it on it next week. That's sort of my goal. Is I'm gonna let the gaming continue for the little bit here, and then I'll probably just have to like cold turkey it for a week or two and get some Titanicus stuff done.
I can imagine you clutching your keyboard and mouse, saying like, you'll quit when you want to. You just don't want it right now. So, oh, that's awesome. I know we've talked a little bit about this offline, but for those who are not aware, they announced a plastic version of the Direwolf kit coming out, which is super fast. It seems like it just only came out last year. And yeah, it's boom getting a plastic kit. Dan, has that made building these resin versions of the Direwolves less enjoyable?
Yes and no. I mean, I can be proud that I bought an actual 100% real Forge World model, and that, you know, the kit is good, but it did irk me when I saw it, because I bought 3 of these Direwolves just to get free shipping, and then like, yeah, a year later they came out with a plastic one with 1 extra gun, and now I gotta buy that one kit to get that one gun. It was just like,
did you dirty a little bit, eh?
Yeah, I was just like, oh, I'm not impressed, and I bet that gun's probably gonna be better than the other 2, and I'm just like,
of course. So you got to do something. I know with all the resin kits porting over to plastic, I know I'm still kind of clenching a little bit about my Storm Eagle. I'm like, I should build this before it turns plastic to see I did it. But a part of my soul is like, if I build it, I know the second I start gluing it together, they'll announce it, and I'll be like, fuck it, I'll just drop the kit and be done, right? I don't know. We'll see how it's going. So, Dustin, how about yourself? What have you been doing hobby wise?
I've actually just been working on my Titanicus stuff. I've got my Warhounds and Reavers all primed up.
Nice.
I do have new learning steps, painting steps. I'm going to try out non-metallic metal on them. We'll see how it goes.
Nice.
And I'm going to try marbling for the first time ever too.
Oh, excellent.
So we'll marble my white and blues on the panels and whatnot and see how it goes.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, marbling can be a lot of fun. I know there's a couple different ways you can do it. I actually use used dryer sheets.
Yeah,
I find they pull apart easier than the baby wipes do.
Yeah.
All kind of depends on what you want to go for, though.
Yeah, I was going to try that first, and then if that goes the wrong way, then I have to figure out something else. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Nice.
The models are fairly small, so if it goes completely horrible, I can easily correct and just do just a gradient or something if I really wanted to. But that's kind of the plan for how it's going. And then I'm just trying to get my Necrons ready for 40k as well.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Myself, in the last segment, I didn't do a ton of work. This round, in between segments, I actually got a decent amount of stuff done. I've got all my Titans are prime black. I started actually pre-shading all my red and yellow for my Legio Ignatum. And probably once people are listening to this episode, my Legio will be already sprayed yellow and glossed over, so I can actually start dropping decals on and try to really push hard and get all my stuff painted as much as I can. It's just I think what's one of the most enjoyable parts for me now is how fast can I get a great looking force on the tabletop in the shortest amount of time. And if I can bang out this Legio, my maniple I'm using, I should say, in about a week's time, that kind of lets me catch up a little bit, so I can buy myself some time as we jump to the next phase. But as far as, I guess, the slow grow is concerned, we have existing maniples already, existing legios we've played before. As I mentioned just earlier here, I'm jumping over to Legio Ignatum. Dustin, what legio were you thinking about jumping in with for this round?
I'm actually going to be playing Legio Ostax, also known as the Cockatrices, and I just get to make angry bird screaming noises when I play and get to yell "rock out" with your cock out the entire time.
That's gonna replace your Warhorn?
Yeah.
Just bird screeching?
They'll just have the Canada Goose hiss.
Oh, awesome. And Dan, yourself, are you... Because you've got a couple different legios on the go. You were rolling with an existing one, or were you dabbling with a new one?
I'm not sure. I mean, I can go either way. I do have like 2 or 3 that I can just play with, but I haven't decided 100% if I want to like go 100% new. I mean, it'd be pretty easy to, but I haven't decided. I'm just gonna build my models and then kind of see where the wind blows me.
Nice.
How I feel. So
that's all right. It's always a good way to go, right? Whatever the flow is. So it helps make it a organic project. So
Dan's gonna go full meta and just stomp the slow grow with us.
No, if he was doing that, he'd be playing as Volpa.
yeah, they would. It'd be a different story, I guess. I want to, you know, we can kind of get into the next thing and talk about like the goals of the slow grow, right? And figure out, and it's more about getting, you know, the community together and getting them to start piece by piece, rather than just starting at a league at 2K, because nobody's gonna jump on that. No new guys are gonna jump on that. So, you know, that's sort of the intent of slow grow, is to get the progress going and get new guys.
Yeah, for sure. That's the biggest thing. With our slow grow, we're very much mirroring what we used for our Horus Heresy slow grow. It's going to be phases that we're running in, and it's going to let us, I believe it is 6 weeks per phase, where we're getting our maniple painted up. We're starting at 750 points, which is small, but that's the intent, is to make it obtainable. You know, 3D printers can only burst so fast. So guys are getting their legios all done up, ready. I want to say there's 1 or 2 people that are toying around with night houses. I haven't seen them come out yet, but I'm sure we will. That'll kind of change how things roll.
Yeah.
So that'll always be nice.
Because how many intro games did we? Well, we played 2 intro days, and then, but like every intro guy that played, I think, has been coming, because Dustin was one of the intro guys.
Yeah. And
you know, every event that we've done, it seems like we got a new guy that's played an intro, and it kind of has opened their eyes up to the point of being like, oh shit, I want to play. And then they're, you know, they come back with more Titans, like, because Jordan, one of the guys in the community, he played an intro, and he's like, man, he's like, I'm already addicted. And then he showed up with like a whole maniple of stuff, and it was just like, holy crap, like that was only 3 or 4 weeks before, like when we played just like the pre intro game. And so it's good to see that kind of growth of like the fire starting, right?
Absolutely. I know James came by just to watch kind of the game go down for our first slow grow meetup, and I was like, hey, I brought an extra maniple, you want to check it out? And he's like, oh shit, yeah, okay. And he didn't intend on playing at all, ran through a game, and he was like, yeah, I'm in. He was already ready to go. So it's nice to see that, for sure. There is definitely growth, especially in the local community. Like, we have a decent amount of players signed up. I believe the final number was 19 signed up for the slow grow, which is
amazing,
an impressive number. You can't go wrong with that. So the whole goal is everyone kicked in $20. we draw a Loyalist Legio and a Traitor Legio at the end of each phase, and then they get a $25 gift card to encourage painting. So as long as you're hashtag fully painted by the end of the phase, we do threads, we submit pictures, and then kind of do a random draw. Everyone who got entered into that particular draw, each pool you draw from, they win their prizes. But everybody who's gotten their stuff painted will get entries into like a final draw. We did a big draw kind of at the end of our Heresy Slow Grow, so that's pretty much the intent, is to mirror that. Set up different games days at different stores every 2 weeks, and just try and really spread the love around the city, as they're all multiple places. I know we've kind of got the traveling circus going on because we got a decent amount of players coming out, and then we're also toting around all the terrain. I think between Dan and myself, we've got at least 4 tables worth of stuff, like if we bring everything. So it'll make it very interesting once we start getting more bodies coming out and we bump up points. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And to echo what Dan was saying, like the whole point of Slow Grow is to learn and nurture these like newer players, really start to lay down that foundation so we can have a strong, player base by the time we're done the Slow Grow. And it always helps because we are essentially home growing our own event players as well. Now, it'll end. We'll have events popping off that also support Titanicus amongst other Heresy theaters. And it'll be really nice because here's all these people who've been playing along, learning the game, and they're also been painting, which just makes events that much better. Going through the game and using corruptions, teleporting through a building so your Reaver or Warhound can just kill the dude. That's not the intent. I know that will happen eventually because we're gonna have to see how it works. Some people need to live that life to know how it is when Volpa reaches out and touches you. I don't need to live that life. I've lived it already, and it's definitely interesting. So I'm looking forward to just different exposure with all the different players out there. I think that'll be really. I think that'll be the most interesting, is watching people. I guess react to all the different changes with different legios and essentially, I guess, lack of a better word, the meta of how it's going to be going locally.
Well, yeah, and like, I think the other draw too is like Epic coming out, and I think some people are like, oh, I want to build a Legio now so that I can play it with Epic. Me and Bill talked about like maybe adding Epic to the league, but that might be just another rule set that's just going to bog everything down and people learning new things. So that might have to be a future thing. But I think it's definitely encouraging that drive to want to play is with Epic. Because then, because you don't want to be the one Epic guy and not have Titans, and then, a guy have Titans and, whatever Titans are going to do in Epic. I don't necessarily know yet, but
I suspect they're going to contribute in a decent way.
So, there's that big draw, and now, I can really see the campaigns coming of different scales, but the leagues in the camp, like I think you have a future campaign that's sort of going to be a bunch of things, right?
Yeah, the plan was to launch a campaign alongside this round of Slow Grow, and with the announcement of Legions Imperialis, and just with also the gaining popularity. Also earlier in this episode, you hear me talking about how I want to dabble into Battlefleet Heresy. I know there's other people doing that too. I wanted to hold off and postpone this campaign until next year, also right around the time where we can probably shoehorn a Slow Grow of Epic / Legions Imperialis, just so we can get a full spectrum of who's playing what, who really likes what, and then hold a big event where we can incorporate our BFG 30K, we can incorporate Titanicus, we can incorporate epic. We can incorporate Zone Mortalis. Even if it turns out we can incorporate like a big APOC style city fight, just providing all these different theaters for players to come out and roll dice in. And the nice thing is if you're making it multiple games throughout the day, that means people can play multiple systems and they can kind of get a little taste of everything. Or you can just, be a pig at the trough and go hard on one system the whole day. It doesn't really matter. But I think providing maximum choice for players and having it all the same like price, like you walk in, let's say the event's $35-$40, you pay that, you play anything you want, it doesn't matter. I think that's kind of going to be the main focus, is try to spread the love around and let people just kind of play what they like. So that's kind of the main focus with that campaign, and also lets us figure out how everything's going to work together. Because I don't know about you guys, but being able to battle in the void and have boarding action fights on a zone board that can contribute fire orbital bombardment onto a epic board that can, you can continue to rolling these results and different battles. They can really start to dictate and tell a certain story, and you can have multiple story arcs and multiple mission matrix, and it can get crazy. But I'd really like to see where it goes from here. Dustin, I'm interested to hear some insight from you, like as a new player to Titanicus and relatively fresh with Heresy. Is what things are you most looking forward to, based on what you've already partaken in and what you're starting to partake in with Titanicus?
Oh man, actually, the few games I played after Titanicus, like I'm hooked. I'm like 100% in, like ready to go all in. And then the fact that I was never really super hyped about Epic, but then once you could use your Titans in Epic, and like the entire communities, everyone else is hyped on it. So now I got FOMO, so now I'm hyped into Epic, and now I'm all in on Epic. So it's and like when we were talking about the campaign, and you're like, you have to actually choose what game you're going to play, and I'm like, oh man, I have to pick now. God damn it.
Yeah.
And but I'm super excited to see where it's going. Like I've only been playing Heresy for less than a year, like 30k, so it's been a real good journey so far, and it's just more and more systems keep opening up, and the community is like large enough to sustain all these different types of games too, which is the great thing, because you could have one guy that's just really hard into Zone Mortalis and then have no one else kind of really. You're just kind of like stuck in your like small group of 4 people. But it sounds like everyone's kind of, they love that Heresy time frame and all the different game systems, right? But that's kind of how, for me so far with Titanicus, I'm just like really enjoying the just the different I guess pace from 30k, as opposed to trying to survive for one turn and having alternating actions and whatnot, and more of just let's basically try and guess what that person's going to do. And it's I guess the more you play in your community, you'll eventually learn everyone's like little tips and tricks, or what kind of bullshit they're gonna pull off.
Yeah.
So, or what kind of mind games they're playing. So it'll be the last game we played, I was just the indecisiveness on my face on what I'm like trying to do. I hate going first, so it's more of it's never really a wrong answer, because if you roll ones, it doesn't matter at the end of the day.
It's true.
It's what what I've heard. It's the best game system no one's playing, essentially.
Yeah, you do find these little niche pockets of players here and there, but as far as wider spread, at least locally here, it's not massive. I know there's a few guys down in Victoria that also play Boys of the Golden Throne. And then one of our friends, you might have seen a bunch of his posts, Smells Like Titan Spirit or Teen Spirit on Instagram. I'll have to look now because that's bugging me. Greg, he's hardcore into Titanicus and has a ton of different Smells Like Machine Spirits. Sorry, there we go. He's into a ton of different Titanicus stuff. He's been painting Legions, Imperialis things, getting all prepped up for Epic. I think he's actually going to be hosting a big Titanicus event come September. I was oogling over some of his buildings. He has very similar to the same style of 3D printed buildings that I've got, except they're all cratered and ruined out. There's like big sections.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, they look really good.
Yeah, I saw them. Yeah,
I was. I'll have to chat with Cal and see if he's got updated versions, because last I talked to him, he said he was working on ruined versions of that as well. So it's going to be really neat. I think there's going to be obviously new terrain coming down the pipe to support Epic, which will obviously port over to Titanicus really well. I don't know really what to expect from Epic myself. I very briefly looked at some of the games being played, but I never played any on my own. I've got a bunch of the old models that I was using as base filler for my Titanicus, but now with the new scale and the new stuff coming out, I've kind of put that on pause. I might end up actually redoing all my Legio Krytos bases just to make them a little bit more, a little sexier, make it match up with Siege of Terra vibes, which obviously that's where my Legio Ignatum are going to be. So it'll be an interesting project anyways. Try and do all the basing together. What was I going to... Oh, one other thing is, if you're ever looking, the nice thing about Titanicus itself, and I'm gonna bug you a little bit about it, Dustin, is the amount of 3D printing stuff out there makes that game so accessible for everybody, because there's a lot of kits right now online. You can't get shit. It doesn't matter what you're trying to order. Everything seems to be sold out or temporarily sold out. I know for a while it was like searching for Dragon Balls, trying to hunt down these Horus Heresy starter packs. You could bust out 2 Reavers, some Warhounds, and Knights, trying to get the best deal for that. In terms of accessibility, Dustin, how is it having a 3D printer? It blows me away, just the amount of stuff you've been able to pump out in a short period of time. And you're not alone. There's many different players in our local who are busting out maniples of the resin just over a weekend, right? Cranking it out. And I love to see it, because it just shows that the system's growing. The sculpts, they're obviously different. There's now, we have Mars and Lucius pattern. Titans ripping around all the place, which is very, very nice. How do you find it?
That was kind of the main draw to get me into it, because everything's out of stock, right? And it's well, how am I going to keep up with this? And there's even collaborating within the community too. We're sharing files now, and we're fixing scaling for people and being able to share STLs essentially and be able to print for each other. Being able to just print out a Warlord, because you can actually, I've never seen one in stock since I've started looking at Titanicus. And if I can't get it, I was lucky to get the starter box. But if I didn't have the starter box, I'd be hooped without, unless I was getting it printed. But just having that, being able to customize my stuff, because the Legio I picked is not there's not much out there on the internet for it, so I'm actually gonna get a guy on Fiverr to make me a stencil, a vectored stencil of the Ostax logo, and I'm just gonna make 3D printed hard transfers for my my Warlords and Reavers now, and just kind of that's kind of one way that I'm being able to customize my stuff, and it's been a really nice impact because just being able to do that customizing for the community as well. Just offer that up, but even just getting different styles of weapons too. Because if like I found well, the one Gatling blaster is like it's okay, but my I ended up finding one that looks like the Iliasis assault cannon that the Imperial Fists use from 30K. It's got the I don't even know what you call it on the end of the cannon. The
like that,
the barrel,
that big muzzle.
Like the muzzle. Yeah. Just having those options available where I can, if I like a look, I can find it. And then actually one of the biggest thing about my biggest gripe is I absolutely despise non-drilled barrels. And so I've just been reprinting weapons for my Reavers and Warhounds and Warlords and going in and editing the file and just drilling my own, pre-drilling my own barrel holes.
That's awesome. Never drill a barrel again.
Yeah.
Well, that's killer. I know Dustin, he's done actually some decent amount of printing for me over the last little bit. I've got some goodies to break out and show, as well as busting out a bunch of the stuff that I got from Battle Bling. There's going to be a lot of different variants, a lot of different upgrades getting slapped on my Titans, and this is really where I'm wanting to explore. I know with my Legio Krytos, it was kind of vanilla. I just used everything that I had in the boxes and everything like I could get from Forge World or like a recast, and now this is where I'm trying to experiment with all the stuff, because in the beginning I was really kind of unsure about all the 3D printed stuff, but as I've been playing, it really doesn't matter how they're printed. The cards are the things that matters. As long as your opponent can, relatively tell what it is. Doesn't have to necessarily be WYSIWYG, but the opportunity that we have as hobbyists to use all these 3D printed bits and make your Legio look super unique and just fucking cool on the tabletop, that's kind of where my head's at now. Is I want it to look completely different from my Krytos Titans. I want my playstyle to be different. I want to just run different Titans that I have now. Starting at the 750 kind of, puts you into a small box, but as we build, I'm going to just start building all the Titans I haven't built for my Krytos, just so I get a good spread. I don't know about you, Dan, but I'm kind of like a hoarder. I've got a shit ton of Titans just new on sprue hanging out. So when I always see and read about all these different kits that are, out of production or sold out, I just like walk out of my little tote. It's like, oh, my precious. I'm lucky I grabbed a bunch of shit when I did, and it's just I
ended up buying a box of Porphyrions just because I saw them in a clearance bin at a game store, and I had no idea if they were good or not. I just bought them because they were on sale, and I know Titanicus is low on stock everywhere. So
yeah. And they are good from what I remember. Actually, Porphyrion, you're pretty beefy. They do a lot of damage.
Yeah, they're gross in 30K and gross in Heresy. They can get a mass amount of shots off in Titanicus. But yeah, I was going through my closet the other day and I was like looking. I was like, man, I don't even remember buying this. I'm like, I got 3 Reavers that are still on sprue and stuff like that. I'm like,
really?
It was stuff like that. I'm just like, man, what was I even thinking? And it was just like.
You were in 2023 and you knew it was gonna be low stock. It's just the way it is, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, that's awesome. That's very good. For those listening, let us know if you're jumping into Titanicus, if you're building up Titan models to start going with your Legions Imperialis. I know there's a ton of people starting to 3D print all their Legions epic stuff. I've seen just tons of posts flying up it's like getting ready for Epic, getting ready for this, getting ready for that. You're like, holy fuck, man! Like, game's not even out, and people are just going hard. So, I am excited for the future. I know as we keep cranking out slow grow days, it's going to be neat watching all these different players come out with different armies as they start to evolve over time. And definitely just, keep commenting and keep firing us off all these, all the different games you're playing and tagging us in the Trident Wargaming on Instagram, all the socials. Did you guys, Dustin or Dan, did you guys have anything you wanted to add just as we're starting to wrap up here?
No, nothing off the
Titanicus
top of my
cool as
head.
fuck.
Yeah.
Titanicus is cool as fuck.
It is. It is.
Painting on the sprue, that's the easiest way to paint.
Absolutely.
Other than that, I don't have anything else for new guys.
Absolutely, yeah. My new player tip is don't bother, like I did, cutting off all the armor plates and putting them on toothpicks. That's just a fucking waste of time. Leave them on the sprue. I cut almost all the pieces off. I leave one attachment point on each armor plate, airbrush everything, seal it all, take it off the sprue when you're actually ready to glue it on and start touching up and getting all your fine detail stuff, because once you glue those fuckers together, it's time consuming. I know at the tail end, I kind of was starting to do hobby hacks and used one of those Liquidex paint pens with the gold, and it turned out really good. You can wash and get your trim done. Like, I think I got a whole Titan's worth of trim done in like 30 minutes compared to 3 hours with a brush by hand. So that was nice. But yeah, if you leave those pieces separate, you'll be in a much better place. A much better place. So, but yeah, that pretty much wraps up this segment. We'll definitely be touching base more as we start to play bigger games of Titanicus, share some more war stories. Obviously, check out our socials. We'll have more pictures posted up there as we start to watch everything grow. Big shout out to the Patreons that make everything possible. We really appreciate the support. We've got Frederick, Chris, Dustin, and Tyler. So much appreciated, you guys, for supporting us. And yeah, if you want to check out any of the things we've talked about, there's going to be links in the description. I'll even throw a link in the description to Smells Like Machine Spirits Instagram, so you can check out a bunch of their stuff. And yeah, we'll definitely touch base with you next time. Thanks a lot.
Did you plug the Patreon? We need to plug the Patreon.